Southwest Airlines looks to be closing a long chapter in its labor battle with its pilots union. One report says the 5-year deal worth $12 billion. Southwest is the last carrier to strike a deal with its pilots. It's not a done deal quite yet, it seems. The union's board still has to decide whether to send the agreement to members for a ratification vote. So that's something that we are still watching here, but it looks more promising than it has been here. And, you know, this has been an overhang for a lot of the airlines to try to push these things through. And you could argue Southwest has had more overhangs than most. Earlier, we learned that the company, earlier in the week, we learned that the company was paying a fine related to some of the travel problems that occurred last year for people around the holidays flying Southwest.
Yeah, well, that was just an epic meltdown, stranded thousands of people.
Yeah.
But this one, it's interesting because they're kind of, I mean, they're peers to your point, Julie. So Delta, United, American, their pilots finalized their deals earlier. In some sense, too, it's interesting just to think about how, you know, it's a post-pandemic theme and trend as well. Like post-pandemic, everybody starts traveling again. People wanted to go out there, get after it, and they did. And that, of course, meant if you worked in this industry, if you were a pilot, if you were a flight attendant, you had some leverage to use, right? And so you could push for better pay and higher pay, better working conditions, and they did. And it sounds like they're going to get this deal done as well. We'll see.
Well, and it wasn't just the airlines, of course, right?
For sure.
That's what's been so fascinating that we have both been watching since the pandemic is with the tight labor force, just the power and sort of a comeback of unions, right? Not necessarily the number of union members, which hasn't seen a big recovery, but the number of union activities, right? CNBC citing some research from Cornell University School of Industrial and Labor Relations saying there were 393 strikes this year involving more than 500,000 workers. And the number of strikes involving 1,000 workers or more was the highest since 2013, according to BLS. So, you know, sort of anecdotally, we've been watching a lot of high-profile strikes. It's been the airlines, it's been Starbucks, it's been Amazon, you know, the list goes on, and the numbers back it up that really there have been a lot of strikes.
No, to your point too, I mean, it was a theme and a trend we watched all year long of kind of labor unions flexing their muscle. It was from the UAW to Hollywood and everything in between. And a lot of that, of course,
I forgot that little auto workers one.
That small one we covered just a couple times. But it's, you know, it's sort of like a lot of that was responding to obviously cost of living, how that rockets, inflation cools. You'll see how that kind of plays out in 2024.